Good morning, everybody. Time is now 9 o'clock. Call this meeting to order. If you please rise for Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. I will say there is a quorum here. All directors are present and staff. We are just very happy for that. Next thing is approval of the governing board minutes of workshop. They are approval as amended, and I will take the amended and I'll make sure everybody knows what it is. Underneath discussion, there was a motion that was not adopted, but the names that were involved with were wrong. It is Canaro and Fitzsimmons, and that is how it is amended. Are there any other additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, approved as orders. Staff report. Bill, no report. I like that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sharon, I'll let you introduce. We have Chris Barker on the phone for a very brief solar update. He promised me no more than 10 minutes. Thank you, Chris. Go ahead, Sharon.
Sorry. I just wanted to take a minute to explain that the solar project that we've been looking at through the properties committee that Russ looked at for us was to put electric cars in. And so since we started with that piece, I wanted to make sure that the board knew what was going on in regards to a possible pilot project for Sun City West area. And Chris is in charge of this particular project and has been instrumental in trying to get this into the Sun City West area. He's without a doubt one of the most knowledgeable people I know regarding all types of mobility for seniors and people just in general. He's been in a number of, if you read his bio that was attached, it's here. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Chris.
Thank you, Heather. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. We're good. Everybody here okay? Great. Welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to meet with the board this morning. I'm sorry I can't be there in person, but not far away. And it's a pleasure to chat this morning. As Sharon mentioned, we've had the opportunity to have a series of discussions and meetings with Sun City West about the idea of introducing new transportation options for the community, recognizing that you're not currently serviced through a traditional public transportation system. And so what we'd like to do this morning is just walk through a little bit of some of the ideas behind what a new level of service might look like for Sun City West and perhaps Sun City down the road. And so I'd like to just step you through a couple of these ideas and certainly give you a chance to ask questions and answer those questions as we go forward. If you could go to the next slide. So a little bit of background. I am the president for CBC Transportation Design and Consulting. We are a global transportation and smart cities firm. We have 25 plus years in the transportation and smart city technology market. Do a lot of work with cities, universities, private sector organizations, retirement communities, entertainment districts, all around how we can bring new levels of transportation service to areas that don't have enough service to meet the needs of their populations. And so we get a chance to do some really interesting and progressive projects for taking existing modes of transport and also introducing new options that will provide a more dynamic and flexible level of service for different communities. A point of background, I was the lead, one of my more recent projects, the lead in launching the first autonomous shuttle service in North America. This was a service that we deployed in downtown Las Vegas. It was the first all-electric self-driving shuttle service that carries about 10 to 15 passengers and operated in the downtown corridor of Las Vegas. Kicked off a year-long program, originally forecasted probably about 25,000 riders. We ended up with in excess of 55,000 riders in the first year, doubled the size of that fleet. And now, pleased to announce we're working on an expansion of service to the medical district in Las Vegas to bring autonomous shuttle service to a large hospital complex and annex buildings as well. Our experience has been also such that we've been able to do deployments in many other cities, Montreal, London, Lyon, Paris, Melbourne, to name a few. And so a lot of experience working with cities and engineering teams and such in designing these systems so that they're safe, effective, and they give local residents and visitors a chance to experience something different in their transportation needs going forward. The other brief example to the right is a project that we're working on with the Florida Department of Transportation. This is a very large autonomous transportation test track facility that we're building out just outside of Orlando. It will be one of the largest facilities in the country, and it's designed to do lots of testing on self-driving cars, semi-trucks, transit vehicles, even drones, to see how these different types of transport will operate in live environments, whether it be a city, a corporate campus, a university, other locations. So our team is helping with the design of this track site, bringing in automobile manufacturers, trucking manufacturers, transit companies from not just the United States, but around the world to be able to utilize this site and use to figure out how it's going to be deployed in live environments. If you go to the next slide, I've had the chance to meet many of you in the community, and it's been a great series of conversations. I learned from my very first visit that golf carts are quite popular in Sun City West. I love golf carts, but I've noticed it seems like often the primary vehicle of transport. However, in working in transportation, also noticed no seatbelts often in golf carts, and sometimes the speed that those are traveling is not always the safest, shall we say. And in many communities that we work in, we find that golf carts don't always mix well with on faster roads with other vehicles, depending upon the temperament of other drivers. Um, Another thing we noticed is that often is the case, personally owned vehicles is the other primary mode of transport within the community. Unfortunately, not everybody has access to a vehicle, and in many cases, people are no longer able to drive comfortably, which limits their mobility options. As I mentioned at the top, public transportation service is not always equal and prevalent for all communities. In your case, the absence of traditional bus, car share, or rail service, further limits how people can get around in the community. And so part of what we're looking at is how can we bring new service to the community to give people the mobility that they need to get to the places they need to go, to do it safely, and to give them as much flexibility in their transportation needs as possible. So if you go to the next slide, what we've been talking about with many parts of the Sun City West community is an idea of, since golf carts are popular, perhaps a slightly better than a golf cart, which in this case would be the introduction of something called an electric vehicle. In this case, a two-seat electric vehicle that is crash tested, comes with seat belts, climate controlled. In this case, carries two passengers, has a range of 90 miles on a single electric charge, can travel at speeds of up to 50 miles an hour, pretty much gets you everywhere you need to go except for the freeway, and is a great little in-town, in-community vehicle with a trunk space for groceries and supplies as needed. In addition, as I mentioned, the autonomous shuttle is another element of service that we're looking at, which is great for areas where there's a lot of foot traffic and there's an ability to help people hop on and hop off on kind of like a circulator. These shuttles carry, as again, 12 passengers or two wheelchair riders as well. And they're really good for locations like, for example, your rec centers or your hospital complexes where you may go to a main building and then you need to go to other buildings, and walking might not be the most optimal scenario. And so you could potentially hop on, ride to an annex building or another part of the campus, and then they get off. And then if you need to take your electric vehicle back to your home or your other point of origin, you have the ability to do so. The other part of advancement in technology is solar covered parking structures. So this is becoming quite popular as we move toward a zero emissions future, which is the idea of having solar structures that can capture energy and become the fueling source for electric vehicles. More and more communities are looking at this type of approach. So you could have the solar covered parking structure in a central location that allows for the energy capture to happen off grid, and that power is basically stored in charging blocks and then can be used to charge up vehicles, whether it be a smaller vehicle or a self driving shuttle, as an example. If you go to the next slide, we've been having some discussions with some of the folks within the team at Sun City West of, if we were to introduce initially a pilot project, say a 6-month pilot project, the idea would be to have a solar covered parking structure in a central location to the community. In this case, we've looked at R.H. Johnson Recreation Center is a location where obviously a lot of people come and go for different activities and business matters. And so the thought here is to potentially install a solar covered parking structure in a part of your parking lot. As you can kind of see here, this is the space closest to your library at the R.H. Johnson facility. And within that structure, you would be able to capture power, have charging stations built into the structure itself. And then these dash vehicles could be parked there where people in the community could access the vehicles. You can utilize them for, with a couple hours or a couple days, depending upon your needs. Take them to your home, bring them back. If you want to swap out vehicles to a different vehicle, you could do that. But these vehicles offer people a mobility option to get around the community. And again, they're safe. They've gone through all the U.S. Department of Transportation, its safety requirements. They're climate controlled. So think of it as a new and improved and better golf cart in many respects. And they're flexible so you can take them to different parts of the community. Again, the only place that you really can't drive is on the freeway, but otherwise it'll get you just about anywhere you need to go. And this is just a sample, but I'll show you the next slide, what the structure might look like. So this is a rendering of the area that we had targeted in talking with the facilities team of putting this parking structure, and you can see it allows for cars to be parked on both sides. We were originally targeting the idea of about 20 to 24 of these vehicles as part of a 6-month pilot project. And they would be parked here, accessed here, and charged here. You can also take the vehicle to your home and plug it into a charging block in your house and charge it there if you decide to bring the vehicle to your home, and then bring it back here as well. And the solar covered parking structure, of course, is the power source. It does not require to be plugged into your facility. You could do that later if you want, but for now it would be off grid. And the idea here is that this would be a starting point to get folks comfortable with the idea of what it's like to use these vehicles. And then you could add to this structure and add more vehicles to your fleet operations as demands require. The idea is we would look at this as an initial 6-month pilot project to commence either in the spring or the fall of 2021. And then in parallel, we'll be working with our friends in the state legislature and some other parties about funding for an ongoing operation of the service to support the community and perhaps even scale it to a larger amount of vehicles for Sun City West and perhaps Sun City. So where we are now is we've got these renderings, we've got a design, we've approached a number of private organizations who would be sponsors to cover the cost of the pilot. Just want to emphasize there would be no cost to Sun City West for the 6-month pilot. The only requirement we would have is that we could put the parking structure at the R.H. Johnson facility and hopefully encourage folks to use the service and ride it and get their feedback. And hopefully it's a really effective way to extend their mobility options. So with that, I'm going to pause and answer any questions you may have.
Before you start asking or answering your questions, Chris, one other comment would be that for part of this trial, we picked R.H. Johnson because it was the largest area, which would run from the library clear through to Walgreens. So you could be able to go anywhere within that particular area. Because of NHTSA, the National Traffic Survey, you cannot take it off-road. So you can't connect like the shuttle to another rec center. But the intent here is to, if you got people used to what this would do, where you could go, how you could take it, it would be incorporated into a larger picture. None of this has been decided. I want input from the general public that lives here in regards to what you'd like to see done with the electric cars. We are open to a lot of information from the community as to what it might look like even in the pilot. So with that, please ask questions.
Chris, one of the overlying questions that has been asked over and over again is, this is a pilot program. When the pilot program, if the pilot program stops, who is on the obligation financially for the structure? Do we have, or who owns it? Who's going to purchase it? Or where are the dollars going to come from after the pilot program? That's the question that's been bandied around. I'm asking that first and foremost because I'm sure 7 of my 8 directors other than me are going to ask that question.
It's a great question, George. So we talked, Bill and Russ and I talked about this, that in the scenario that folks don't want to continue with this service after the pilot, structure, the charging stations that are installed, and we're working with the state of Arizona to be the sponsor provider of the charging stations, you could charge a fee for utilizing the charging stations, and the cost that is gathered, or the funds that are gathered from that, could go toward funding the payoff toward the rest of the parking structure. Our idea would be that this is hopefully going to be something that people are going to use and benefit from and want to continue the service going forward. But worst case scenario, a lot of organizations, they'll keep the charging stations there, and any kind of electric vehicle could park there and charge, and it would be for fee for service essentially. And then the fees that are collected could go toward the cost of the structure itself.
Thanks, Chris. I'm going to open up to my directors. Roberta Davidson is first.
I just have a question. How do you anticipate people getting to the cars?
Great question. So in the beginning, when you first start off a new service, either a member of the household or a friend would bring you to RH Johnson to get the cars for the very first time. And then once you have the vehicle, like I said, you can take it back to your home. So it's like your car, and you can keep it for a day, a few hours, however long you need it. And then you can bring it back. And if you wanted to pick up a different vehicle, drop one off and pick the other up. So you have a continuous access to that vehicle. And then the other element that Sharon touched on, and I wanted to mention, is the autonomous shuttle part. The shuttles we would keep, ideally situated at the rec center or the hospital as a circulator. Right now, based on the technology, those vehicles travel about 20, 25 miles an hour. They're designed to be frequent stops, not high speeds. As that technology continues to advance and those shuttles become able to travel on roads of 35, 40 plus miles an hour, the shuttles could come to the home and pick people up and bring them back to these locations as well. It's just that right now, with where things are at, we would keep them in these bigger complexes where you have a lot more foot traffic. So hopefully that answers your question.
Well, Northwest Valley Connect already does about a third of our ridership is from Sun City West to get to doctor's appointments, grocery stores, those kinds of things. This implements going first mile, last mile. So our driver would come, they would be able to have this vehicle, come and pick people up, take them to the doctor, and go back to the house. It's also not just where the driver can come in and pick up the car, but we would have the service available here so that we could pick up the cars, go pick people up, and take them to where they needed to go.
Thank you. Director Connor?
Thank you, George. Chris, as my colleague Sharon has already said, the project design is still in flux. We need community input, among other things. Is it still too early to talk about measures for success of the program?
No, it's definitely not too late. That was part of our next phase, if you will, of business planning. Is when we design these services, we look at what is our minimum, medium, and maximum threshold for what we want to see from a ridership point of view. And we do that for every project where we do a deployment, is to get a sense of how do we define collectively what success looks like. As I mentioned, for the Las Vegas autonomous shuttle deployment, we estimated like 25,000 riders. It's a brand new service. We weren't quite sure what the adoption rate was going to be. It vastly exceeded that rate of ridership. And as I mentioned, about a quarter way into that project, we ended up having to add more shuttles based on rider demand. So we would be monitoring this very closely, where our team would be looking at week-to-week ridership trends. And what we found in a lot of these projects is people, once they get used to the vehicle and the flexibility and the benefits associated, you usually see a pretty good ridership spike that takes place. And I call it the good problem to have, is when someone calls and says, we don't have enough vehicles, we need more vehicles in service. That's what the benefit of the pilot project is. It allows us to kind of get a sense of, if we scale this larger for the community, what might the fleet size look like? How many people would likely be utilizing the vehicles? That helps inform us for the longer term deployment.
Thank you.
Ann, you got any questions?
Well, I'm still trying to kind of figure out the logistics of all this. How do you know that someone's authorized to use it? Do we keep track of you have to use your rec card to access this, or can just anybody come in from outside the community and use it? And what would prevent someone from taking it beyond the area that we've set up initially?
Great question. So how the vehicles work is, you would make a reservation if you wanted to come pick up the vehicle, or you can use your phone. There's an application for it, and it'll give you a authentication code that verifies you're a resident of the community. And here's an access code. And on the door of the vehicle, you would just punch in the access code, which allows you access to the vehicle. And then you can then pick up the vehicle and drive it to whatever location you need to. When you bring the vehicle back, you'll install the charging plug, and it will basically notify that you're done with the usage of the vehicle, and it's now available for somebody else to come and utilize as a follow-on. So the whole point is that we're authenticating legitimate drivers, legitimate driver's licenses and such, so that you can have free and clear access to the vehicle. And we would also have a team, I wanted to mention as well, we would have staff, in part of the pilot in the beginning, that would look at keeping the vehicles clean, making sure that they maintain a certain level of cleanliness and repair. And if anything has happened with the vehicle, we could provide support for maintenance or anything of those natures as well.
Another question, has there been a survey done to know how many people might really actually use this? Because I know that we have people, some who may be using Northwest Valley Connect, who need assistance in getting around. Are they going to, how are they going to access this? And do we have enough people that we think are mobile, are able to maneuver on their own, walk and do all that, who also do not have access to a vehicle? So maybe, I don't know if you know that or Sharon knows that.
Just as a comment, these are all really good questions, and part of this is, the reason I brought this to the board today was so that you'd have some idea about what we need to discuss about part of those things. As far as Northwest Valley Connect goes, we take a reservation from people and would pick them up in the dash car. They would be starting to learn how that whole process works. We have not sat down to do that next phase. This is the first part of just letting you know this is what we were looking at as a pilot program for the Sun City West area. So I can't give you statistical data. I do know that it's not just for those with a disability or those that don't have mobility. You find people that park their car up here and get in their car after they visited the rec center here and then drive over to the library. So a shuttle, again, eliminates that. You just hop on the shuttle, you go over to the library, you come back to your car. You don't have to and again, if it's picking you up at your house, you can use it without ever using a car at all. So there's a whole list of things that go along with this.
Okay, well, I guess a lot of my questions then would wait until we're further along in the
Yeah.
process. Okay, thank you.
Sue?
Vehicles, if you have folks who have a cane or perhaps a smaller walker, but they're still able to normally drive their other vehicles, these vehicles will allow for that. The only type of limitation would be if somebody's in a wheelchair, these vehicles are not designed for that. The shuttles certainly can. So if you had a Northwest Valley Connect transit van that brought you to the location, the shuttle could pick up and transport you to different parts of the R.H. Johnson Center or a hospital, because those are designed to accommodate wheelchairs, but not the dash vehicle. You have to be a certain level of mobility to be able to safely drive the vehicle and navigate it accordingly. Or to Sharon's point, if they're not, well, Northwest Valley Connect would have drivers of some of these vehicles to pick up at your home and bring you to your point of destination.
Question is, when someone calls to make a reservation, how do you vet them that they're able to do that?
That would be a conversation that we would have with Northwest Valley Connect's team to kind of get a sense of individuals' mobility, personal mobility, and ability to drive. And if they're not capable or safely driving a vehicle on their own, then a driver would come pick them up, or whether it's the dash vehicle or the larger Northwest Valley Connect van, for example.
Does the person have to have a valid driver's license?
Yes. They do. And what would happen, when you kick off the service, there's a registration profile. So you'll put in your information, and you'll have a copy of your driver's license that you put in there for verification. So yeah, anybody who's operating a vehicle on open roads in the United States needs to have a driver's license to be able to do so, of this type of vehicle.
Anything else, Ed? Okay. Ms. Sue? No question? Donna? Bob?
No, not at this time.
Brother Jim?
Yep.
Yeah, I can see that when this car pulls out and somebody uses it, there's a nice empty space for me to park under the shade. Who's going to enforce it that I don't?
Thank you for that question. That came up earlier. So what we will, in addition to the structure, there'll be signage that says these spaces are reserved for electric vehicles only. What we don't want to have happen is somebody tries to pull in to charge their car and it's occupied by a non-electric vehicle. So there'll be signage there marked throughout. That'll be a conversation we will have with the rec center and others. If do we want to enforce a towing policy if folks don't comply? But the idea is these spaces all are equipped with charging stations, so they're really intended for electric vehicles, not fossil, gasoline-powered cars.
And Jim, to that point, just as a comment, this is part of the education for the community to know that this is a pilot program and what it's for. I know that won't necessarily stop somebody who decides they want to be obnoxious and park there anyway. However, the intent is to educate people and let them know what's going on.
Point that depending on next steps and the timing of the pilot, we would spend several months in advance putting together a public communications campaign to inform folks of the service that's coming, how to get ready for it, and provide some guidance of how the service is going to operate, so people have a chance to kind of weigh in and perhaps putting in a mini survey, in advance of the deployment of the service as well. One of the things that we did do during the Las Vegas autonomous shuttle is we had spot rider surveys. So before people got on the shuttle and after they got off, we asked them a series of questions. And that data became tremendously important, particularly for things like how we scale the service going forward into a broader deployment, how we apply insurance policies in the future. So we'll try to build that into the service so that we can get feedback from the drivers and riders of what they liked, what they didn't like, and how we can make the service continually better going forward.
Thank you, Chris. I have a couple of comments from staff. They have a question for you. I'm just going to go right down the line. Bill, you got anything for Chris?
I'll hold off. All the other staff want to contribute.
Pete, Carl?
Hi, Chris. This is project manager for the Rec Center Sun City West. And if approved, is this a turnkey project? Do you supply all bidding vendors that that put the pieces together, or is this a Rec Center policy involved, followed general contractor hiring project?
No, we would be the project managers. It's more of a turnkey. So we've already is putting this content together, engaged a number of parties. We have a team that does the design, build, deployment of the solar structure. We have the organization that provides the dash vehicles, and we have also the organization that would provide the autonomous shuttles. So my team would be the project management team that works with all those parties to bring this to a full deployment at your site. And we, of course, would work directly with your team at RH Johnson, but there's no added time, resource, or staffing requirement on your side. We would handle that as part of the project management team for this deployment.
Russ, you have anything?
I'm good.
With that, staff, any other comments or questions for Chris? Hearing none. Thank you, Chris, for your time, and thank you for your presentation. Enjoy your day, whatever you're doing.
Thank you all. I appreciate it. And if there's any follow-up questions, I've included my contact details. If anybody wants to email or have a phone chat, I'm happy to answer anything else that you may have. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to present at your meeting this morning. Thank you.
George, I have a comment.
Yeah.
I want to congratulate Katie for getting this thing. I could understand every word that guy said. For the first time, thanks, Katie.
Thank you, Katie, as always. All right, moving right along, folks. So just so you know, we have an 11 o'clock hearing today, so we're going to be moving right along with this. Next, General Manager Bill Swin with a brief COVID update.
Thank you, George. As you know, our governor kind of came out the other day and kind of trumped a little bit of this report, but we will move forward as best we can. Quickly, if someone can flip that slide, thank you very much. We are still considered in the moderate range, believe it or not, here in Maricopa County and Sun City West when it comes to our COVID numbers. When it comes to the number of cases and the percent of positivity and our COVID-like illnesses going to hospitals, again, the magic numbers there are 10% or higher. Where we sit here today, these numbers were updated as of November 8th. You can see on the first section on the left side of that graph, we are above, well above the 100,000 mark, the 10% as far as the cases per 100,000. The percent of positivity is up over 11 when this thing was published. I think today's number was close to 15. So it is traveling higher. And the third strike, you're out program when it comes to the COVID cases is currently like at 6% there on that graph. I think it's up to a little over 8% as we speak. If that thing touches the 10% scenario, there are a program in place that we've attested to, and that's when they start closing down gymnasiums and other types of businesses around the state of Arizona. So that's what we're kind of paying attention to. The medical folks are telling us probably within the next 2 weeks we will hit that number. So we'll see, depending if the governor comes out and does anything else with executive orders. Over the last weekend, over 10,000 new cases have been reported, so obviously the numbers are going up, and I think that's what prompted the executive order and the governor on television the other day. Let me just say a little bit. You probably have seen and heard that the school districts around the state, hospitals around the state, are all pressuring Arizona Department of Health to do something. They are seeing their numbers rise dramatically, understaffed, and it is a problem. I'll share with you from the banner perspective, Sun City West, Del Webb Hospital down the street here in Sun City West currently has beds in the lobby. They're full. They've operating now 4 COVID units in the peak season, June, July, August of this summer. They were operating 3 units, so they've expanded that to where we are today to a 4th unit in both Boswell and Del Webb locally. So it's not a pretty sight as far as the internals go when it comes to the first responders and the nurses and what the medical folks are looking at. The reports that Riley gets on a daily and weekly basis do report how many instances that we are seeing within our clubs. Because when we do get notification of a positive activity within our club, be it COVID, we do close down and we do super clean. We go in there and spray and wipe everything down that we can. We do shut down for 24 hours and then reopen. It is prevalent. We are seeing a lot of rise in pickleball. We're seeing a lot of rise. There's a few in tennis, the clay club, wood shop, metal shop, those types of things. A lot of the social clubs that we've got, be it dance and card playing and those types of things, Boomers, Women's Club, have all taken a back seat and they are not open and have not been open for a while. So where are we now? Since the governor's executive order came out the other day, I do just want to chat about a couple of things that were passed along. The Arizona health leaders, they want immediate change, including a curfew and some other intervention things, I think, adopted by the governor. I think probably the next time, if he does speak, they may see their wants granted. But again, everybody's bracing for a bit of a surge to come, and that's kind of on the national level as to where we are. So moving forward, part of the scenario that the governor talked about, again, limiting indoor and outdoor gatherings, the social distancing of 6 feet spacing and masking up still remain your best shield to this. Keeping groups to a minimum is what we're really after. And then, again, back to the fitness clubs and the gymnasiums. The rules have been laid out back in August as to what we're doing, and we are abiding by those mandates per se, limiting the numbers right now to about 25% occupancy and wiping down all of the equipment and doing all the spatial distancing that we know how to do. But again, if those 3 benchmark numbers do rise above the criteria threshold that have been set, we will act in this order, and some of these facilities may close. When it comes to Sun City West, golf is still a very, very popular scenario nationally. And from the home sales, I think Deb can attest that we're up plenty from the same month last year. Quite amazing, but real estate is very, very hot here and continues to be, and that's a very positive thing for us. with all of the work and all of the wonderful stuff that Todd and his crew do to maintain those golf courses. They remain immaculate, and I think they're a very large treasure that we have within the walls here. In a local article here, while businesses do suffer during COVID, golf is soaring. And I think Pat can attest that our numbers were up about 22% from last year. We're rolling good. Our courses are being well used, and we hope everyone is staying safe out there. But part of the executive order that I just want to touch on real quickly is the governor's kind of mandating that we really pay attention to groups over 50 when it comes to special events and those types of things. And I just want to make sure that you all are out in front, just in case you get any phone calls or pictures sent to you over the weekend. We do have an event at Grandview Golf Course this week, and Saturday and Sunday. Todd will tell us how late it's going to run due to frost delays and those types of things that we may see in the mornings. However, we've had this on our calendar contracted for a while. We are hosting a Junior Golf Association tournament at Grandview. And part of the program that the executive orders do mandate is that any event coming into your town or that you're doing requires some kind of acknowledgement back to the state to depict all of the safety standards that are being imposed and in place for that event. And Junior Golf has a 3-page document that we did send to the state. And so everything that they are doing out there are taking a lot of these safety scenarios into play, and they are playing with caution. So the social distancing is out there. The driving range and putting green practice areas are going to be limited to how much time these individuals can stay there. We will not be having any physical scoreboards, no posting, no people hanging around. The awards will all be mailed out to the players. There's no ceremony or anything after this tournament. And the spectators are requested to leave the golf course immediately after the round is played. Junior Golf will be handling all of that maintenance and management, and Jack will be out there with Pat, I believe, to make sure this all goes well. Limiting 15 minutes of time on the practice greens prior to playing, and spectators are allowed to remain on the cart path, and one person only in a cart if they want to tool around and observe any of the play being played there. So in case anybody sends you a photograph or an email over the weekend, I just wanted to make sure you all knew that this was going on out there, and we move on. So thank you. Be safe.
Thank you, Bill. Any comments or questions from the directors? Yes, Brother Jim?
Bill, this is not in any way negative, but I've had more people talk to me and ask me, and I don't know how you respond to it, that 80% of the COVID cases reported are false. And these are for professional people, and I don't know. Do you have any comment that you want to make about it?
Well, I think there was an article in USA Today that I read, I know Katie read it this morning as well, where there was a lot of comments such as that were rebuked, and the medical professionals are trying to answer those types of questions. I can't attest as to why people believe what they believe.
Okay.
I have I think a different perspective from what I view because I live with a nurse. I have someone in my home that sees it and lives it every day.
I think that's why I'm asking you.
And so it's real.
Okay.
I don't think they'd be shipping millions of vaccines in an airplane today to first responders if it wasn't. So it's out there. It affects a lot of people, and it's going to continue to affect a lot of people, and it affects different people differently. But like I said, there are people within Sun City West that we know that are hospitalized currently due to this thing. We get notification from clubs that there are people that are ill, but it is as real as breakfast. I mean, it's there, and as is the flu, as are colds, as are broken legs. I mean, it's just it's a medical scenario in a worldwide pandemic. So I don't know how you want to argue that, and not you personally, but I would just recommend that if they do have any kind of disbelief, to perhaps talk to a medical official.
Any other comments? All right, hearing none. Bill, thank you so much. I know that the COVID update is going to be tiresome because we have it every meeting. But thank you so much for you and the hard work that staff does to put this together. Okay, next on the list, 4.03, facilities, policy recommendations. Roberta.
All right, Mr. President, the committee reviewed these at the meeting yesterday, and we accepted them as written.
Okay, so there's no action to be taken on these.
No action.
Are there any other comments or questions on this? Thank you very much. 4.04, memorials plaques, that has been moved to our next meeting. Greenhouse proposal was also moved to our next meeting. So that makes the agenda go rather quickly. I like that. Roberta, you're up again with facilities part tour. How were the tours?
They were great, and Carl and Russ did a great job, and we were very pleased that a lot of our recommendations that were mainly maintenance have been taken care of. They were in this month's facilities and capital projects review at our meeting yesterday.
May I just ask, I'm just going to ask a question for the record. You have forwarded your recommendations to the general manager for inclusion into his
Yes,
budget?
we have, and they are in the part of the agenda here.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? You all saw them. I have to say that I was really thrilled, and again, this goes right on to the hat of what a great staff we have. They walked around, saw this, and more than half of the things on that list were already taken care of. And that is a great, huge thank you to you guys. You're awesome. So is your staff. Oh, who's next? Ann Brown, B&F policy, FI 13.
Thank you very much, President George. We have been working on some of our policies, and this FI 13 is the collection policy. And I have Deb Long to thank for many of the changes that have been proposed in this. We have gone over this. There are just a few things that were semantics, but she also clarified the actions and the timeline on what happens when payments are not made, and those are set forth under 3.2. Under 3.3, the payments of in-house accounts, she has clarified how those are applied to the owner-member's account in accordance with Arizona state law. And at the suggestion of one of our committee members, she has input a chart into the policy that explains what happens at each stage, at 31 days, 90, 120, and 150 days, and tells what happens, the action that's taken, and references the policy to which it pertains. We went ahead and added 3.4, so then the payment of collection agency assigned accounts, how those are applied, and then payment plans for in-house accounts. So all of these have been looked into, and Deb has been instrumental in making this happen. So first of all, does anybody have any questions about this?
Oh, first off, Ann, just a quick question. This was unanimously brought forth to our workshop by your committee?
By the Budget and Finance, yes.
Okay. With that, are there any questions or comments on this?
This is strictly a comment. As I've been on this board several years, it's amazing that every year we have, and thank God we do, we have the new committees review the policies. It's amazing. They all change them. Every year they've been changed. And that shows that we're up to date and in progress, and I thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I'll share that with my committee.
Any other comments or questions? If not, well, is there unanimous consent to move this for a vote for the governing board?
Yes.
Hearing none opposed, we'll move this forward. And FI 17.
FI 17 is our asset preservation fee. This one is also being brought forth with some changes. And this is from unanimous consent of our Budget and Finance Committee. We have taken 3.9 and eliminated that. It stated the governing board may, in its sole discretion and without obligation to do so, consider hardship or other circumstances in any individual situation where the asset preservation fee would normally apply, and may grant a full or partial refund of the asset preservation fees. This was brought forward just because it's very difficult to define hardship. Members are allowed to have a hearing if necessary, and if that's a true hardship, that will come out in that process. We just thought this clarified what's being done.
Thank you, Ann. Are there any other comments or questions about this? Jerry?
If I may.
Absolutely.
I believe, Ann, you're absolutely correct that a member can have a hearing, but if they have no rights under the policy, then we will simply enforce it as written. And we have seen instances of hearings this last month where we said the policy is clear, we are going to enforce it. And if we take this discretion out of the policy, then we have no discretion at the hearing. We must enforce the policy, presumably. And so I like having the policy say, we have discretion. We don't have to use it, or we don't have to apply it in an individual case, but the policy says we have the discretion. Therefore, at the hearing, we can actually decide whether we want to use it or not. I would leave it in.
Any other comments or questions? Yep.
I just have a question. I thought the reason we were taking this out was I thought the reason we were taking this out was because it encouraged people to apply for a hardship, in that now it's bringing more cases to us. Am I incorrect in that?
No. There's quite a few that are coming in there, and the consideration for hardship is,
Right.
it's the word. When this was put in many years ago, we all understood what this was, and we've had cases where we have had people come in, it's a hardship because I got remarried, it's a hardship because I didn't have my house done within the year how the policy states, okay? And to that point, what it is the definition of the hardship word is what the real issue has been on this one. Because, everybody's perception is different on it. And, my hardship is I don't have shoelaces. I don't know. But that's just what it is. Bob? No? Jerry?
I just want to respond to that because you're exactly right, George. We all have our view of what hardship is. When I saw this and when the committee looked at it last year, I was thinking in terms of financial hardship. We do have people in the community that lived on very limited fixed incomes. They're not paying their annual membership fee. There is a lien on their house, and we're not foreclosing. We'll get it when they sell the house, when they die. But financial hardship is real.
Right, but don't forget too, we're focusing only on the asset preservation fee on this one. And as the policy has gone round and round with, we have taken many of the opportunities of the policy to say, if you do this, and there's a multitude of exceptions which I think we have put in there and pretty much covered as much as we possibly can on that other side, that like I always say in my little joking way, is that there's an exemption for death, and I'm the first one that want to sign up for that, But on the idea is saying, where are we going to be with this? Like I said, in the policy, there's a list of exemptions that allow you to go on from there. And, people have the right to appeal. We're just looking for the idea with that, taking out the idea of the hardship thought. It's open for discussion. It's what workshops are for.
Did Pete have something?
Pete, you got something? No. She said you were nodding.
I thought you were.
I think he's nodding off at our meeting. That's what it is. Bill, I'm sorry.
I don't want to speak for Deb, and Deb can certainly grab a microphone if she likes to, but in our consultation with our attorney, when we look at this particular policy, I believe what you just said, George, is true. This is dealing with APFs. And the reality is, when you buy a home here, within this association, you are mandated to pay an APF. Period. And we have, in this policy, stipulations that explain the ins and outs of the situation. And our attorney is basically advising us at this point that it's laid out in black and white as to what you do and what you don't when it comes to paying this APF. It's rather black and white. And so when you throw in a hardship situation, that can be all over the place. And so he was recommending that we pretty much stay to the black and white policy.
I'm sorry, Bill, he did recommend it, or he sort of recommended it?
He did recommend it.
Is there any other discussion on this? Hearing none, do I have unanimous consent to move this for a vote at the governing board meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so done. And you're still up. You're the busy one today.
I have a busy committee, let me tell you. The FI12 subcommittee has been working on the investment strategies, and they have gotten strategies from Grand and Sun City, have looked at that. Of course, right now, we're at a 10% cap on our equities. The other 90%, they've talked about what type of investments that should be. But their focus right now going forward, I've asked them to really key in on the professional investment advisor and take a look at that. We do have Andrew Maslick with Vanguard right now. I don't know if he could be considered an advisor because he does pretty much what we're telling him to do, but that's the role that he's assumed to have right now. But they're going to be looking at an RFQ or RFP, however you want to put that, for financial advisors, and just need to have your blessing that we can go ahead and do this.
Well, and just a quick question for clarification. RFQ, RFP, could you explain just quickly what that is for anybody who's listening?
Oh, it's a request for a quote or a request for a proposal. And so sometimes those terms are used interchangeably, but it would be, we would put out a request saying that we need to have an advisor who would handle our reserve investment, which I believe is, what, 27 million right now? And how they would handle that using our guidelines of the current 10% and 90% split between equities and other instruments. Find out how they would handle that, if they have suggestions for us, and any fees that would be associated. We're currently paying fees with Vanguard.
This is still a work in process, right?
This is still a work in process.
So this is just really information for us.
This is information for us, but just want people to know what direction we're moving in this to get a professional advisor, which we are in the bylaws required to have.
Okay, okay. Any other questions, comments?
Yes, I have one. I said it the other day, and I'm going to say it again. I think we have to be very careful when we're investing money at 1% or less in hiring people and paying them to tell us what to invest in. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out what you can invest in if you're not going to invest in large funds of money. And if you come up with an investment advisor, I think you need to get rid of Vanguard, or at least their fee.
Well, like I said, Jim, this is just an information or work in process with this.
And I'm just getting up front and saying I'm not in favor of it.
Okay, okay. Jerry?
If I may,
Absolutely.
and I hope I'm not stepping in your territory here, I think Vanguard provides a different service from the investment advisor that Ann's committee is considering. One, Vanguard takes what is given to it and finds appropriate investments that satisfy the instructions given. It gives us other information about projections on economy and all that, but I think Ann and her subcommittee are correct. It is not an investment advisor, and they have always said they are not our investment advisor. An investment advisor tells us how to take this fund and kind of maximize, whether we should be in equities, funds, mutual funds, whatever, and how best to think about investing that, what instructions they think we ought to be giving Vanguard. So they kind of lead up to what we tell Vanguard. Did I get it right, Ann?
That would be how I see it, Jerry. And my personal opinion, is that if, we hire someone as a professional investment advisor, we would not keep Vanguard unless they're the ones chosen because of the fees we are currently paying them. We don't want to duplicate fees. We want to do this in the best manner possible. One of the other suggestions is to have a reserve investment advisory committee that would advise on those, but if we have a professional advisor, I'm not sure a committee is going to be a good way to do that. But like I said, we're still have a subcommittee that is feeling their way around some of these things. So,
Appreciate it. Bill, I'm sorry.
Just, if I may, sir, thank you. And to Jerry, thank you for your comment on that. And one of the things I think that this subcommittee is dealing with really is to try to unite our bylaws with our policies. And our bylaws do stipulate in bylaw 5.5, I believe, that we do have a financial advisor on board. And that's what we're trying to accomplish.
a professional investment advisor, yeah.
This, like I said, this is a work in process, and we all know what it is. There's an interesting thing. I'm going to interrupt everybody. There's a B&F question from one of our constituents who's listening to us online. It says it was about the asset preservation fee at the asset preservation fee is at the sale of a property. Why would someone buying a house have a hardship? Will they have a problem paying their dues? And I'm just going to jump right in. Real simple is that the hardship is in the change of title, and our policy is spelled out exactly what it means and what it doesn't mean. I hope that answers the question. It's the black and white portion that that takes the word hardship out of it. It's not a hardship on the sale. It's the sale is on the buyer. So if they're buying, they're coming into community and know what they're getting into. I hope that, Sherry, I hope that answers your question on that. With that, any other discussion about this? Hearing none. Carl, you are up with, you and Pete are up with a CIP project deferral. And
Thank you, Mr. President and directors. Pete and I will be sharing this presentation today. I'll just give you a little background first, that a reminder that last year, during the months of March and April, we were in the process of working through the current budget that we're operating out of today. And the COVID situation arose, and we had a pretty complete budget ready for presentation to the board. And after the thorough vetting and the approval of that budget, the governing board made decisions to be conservative and make sure that a certain amount of the funds were approved, but also an approximate amount of funds were set aside as a deferred list to make sure that our finances were strong through this COVID situation. Pete is going to speak to where we are financially, and our request today is if we could consider please releasing deferred funds to move forward with projects. After Pete is done, I will give an explanation of timeframes for these projects that are on the deferred list. Thank you.
Carl, I'm just going to step right in and just give you an FYI. In the workshop, we cannot vote to release these funds. That would be at our next governing board meeting, which will be, I think, the 17th, Karen? 19th. I got that right. I just want to let you know about that. The other thing, for each one of the directors, what I will be asking for is an individual vote, not a vote in mass on these, each line item. So each one will be able to be discussed in intimate detail if we need to be. But the good news is that these are projects that repair and replace need to go forward. Thank you. I'm sorry, Pete, thanks.
No worries, thank you. For the FY 2021 capital budget, the governing board did approve $5.9 million. Within that approval, there was approximately $1.8 million identified to not be initiated until January 1st due to the uncertainty. As of October's close, the association is $682,000 ahead of the operating budget and $839,000 ahead of the capital-related budget for a total of $1.5 million ahead of the budget. November's also going to probably present pretty strong numerics for the capital-related unrealized gain, as well as continued strength in asset preservation fees. As Carl will allude to, there are projects that would benefit from January and our equipment installation or procurement, and we hope you will agree that with the strength shown so far through November's close, that we would ask that these be released to finish out the rest of the year.
Thank you, Pete. To begin with, we're going to start the slide and deferral list with the largest items and work our way down to the smallest. As we take a prudent approach in all projects and making sure that we're prepared for them, and not only from a timing standpoint, but from a financial, the Palm Ridge parking lot at $701,000 would still be a project that would be not started until May. So as we continue along in the season, this is not one of the out-of-the-box requests for the new year. In relationship to that project is also the Palm Ridge parking lot and walkway lighting. They go hand in hand. This is for $175,000, so also not an anticipated start until May. Of the deferred projects, this is the largest dollar amount project that we do have an anticipated PO that we are requesting to write for Barry's Sports Pavilion, the Vector Plus system, to also make a approximate May timeline in installation of this unit. A PO would need to be cut in approximately January or February. So this is the first item of the descriptions that we would be asking for absolute release of those funds. The R.H. Johnson Swim and Fitness hallways, lockers, and restrooms, $170,000, based on high-use membership. This is not a project that I would plan on starting until also in May. Pebblebrook Putting Green, I know that Todd is here, but I am assuming that his work due to high membership of and use of golf courses, that this is a spring project. Is that correct, Todd? This would also be a spring project, $90,000 for the putting green at Pebblebrook. Right here is the list of capital projects that I would be in charge of. You can see that they range from fencing projects here at R.H. Johnson, patio cover at Deer Valley, outdoor trash recycle bins at Beardsley, tables, chairs, umbrellas at R.H. Johnson Pool, lounges and chairs and at Beardsley. So between Russ's team of facility managers and myself, these are smaller line items, $48,000, $15,000, $13,000. I would like to move forward in January on these smaller items, and the managers of the rec centers would like to move forward with POs for purchasing furniture, recycle bins, chairs, lounges. And then finally, this is the all-encompassing list of what we just went over, minus the small dollar items that we don't normally just do line item by line item, but the all-encompassing list finishes out things that Russ's facilities maintenance team requires: ice machines, storage shed, sound system upgrades. So you can see the dollar amounts that were not on the slide presentation that start at the bottom at $7,813 and move up to what I shared with you today. So the lesser dollar items is what we're also looking forward to moving forward in POs in the January, February timeframe. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Pete. And Pete, just before the directors ask the questions, when you gave us savings that are out there, does that include the CMOS savings from Kuntz in there also?
I'm not sure when I referenced the savings in my earlier statements.
Your first two statements of 682 and call up to 1.5. Does that include the savings on that too?
No.
Okay.
They're
So
two separate things. This was just our status of our income statement. It essentially exhibits the strength that we were concerned about. It, in my opinion, eliminates the word uncertainty. But interesting point that we are approximately 200 plus, I don't have the exact number, but we're 200 plus thousand ahead on the capital spend savings in the current year, which would lend even more strength for releasing these funds.
And to that point, what we're talking about is we have 1.7 in dollars that are recommended for, that were deferred from last year, and between that and what you told me, and then basically we have the 1.7 in hand to move forward with.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, because I know that'll be a question bantied about on this one. Okay, directors, Jim?
Yeah, I have a couple. Carl, what is the reason, again, I didn't gather it, for putting off the parking lot, 700,000 until May? Why, I mean, that thing is so bad, it ought to be replaced 2 years ago.
I would think myself and most of membership would agree with you on that subject, but when the governing board asked the staff to recommend projects to be delayed for this purpose of deferral, that was a very large dollar amount project, and quite honestly, at the time of scheduling, let's just say right out of the gate, July 1st, there was no solid guarantees that the vendor would actually be available to complete that project in the summer. So multiple factors, it was a safe move to May and qualified for the vendor, the deferred list.
So you can't do it in January, or you don't want to? I'm just,
I guess if it was fully released, I could, but it would affect membership use of Palm Ridge greatly, so that would be a big inconsideration to membership. I know that we don't have a lot of events going on as far as the Palm Ridge Summit Hall goes, but to tear out that whole parking lot, 30 days, I think it's an unnecessary close. It would be better in warmer weather in May. Everybody's in alignment vendor-wise, and it's best timing for me.
well, one person to person, I think you ought to do it quicker. Anyway,
Thank you.
the other little one, we're buying more furniture for the pools. Now, I haven't been there, but the last time I was there, nobody was using the ones we have. And I question why we're buying stuff that we can't use. We're putting them away in the storage, and now we're gonna buy more. Why don't we put it off until we need them?
Jim, that's because they need to be replaced. So whether we open this week or open a month from now, they need to be replaced. So the stuff that we have is poor. So if we wait, now we're stuck because we're open, and now we have to wait to get new chairs. That makes no sense.
With that mask on, I can't understand a word you said. But I'll agree with you, I guess.
Jim, anything else? Bob? Donna?
No.
Sue?
Well, I would just question whether or not we do need all of the things that are on the list by going back to the person that requested them and find out if anything has changed. In their situation, then we wouldn't need to make that purchase. But my other opinion is this was already approved by us. And all we did was say, hold off until January till we find out if we have the funds and we're comfortable financially. And now what I hear Pete saying is, yes, we're comfortable, we're okay with this, everything's okay. So it seems like we've already gone around this one time and said this is part of the budget, so I'm not sure why we're having to vote again, except that we're voting to release what we already approved.
Right. Yeah.
So, it's like kind of like a moot point. But, sometimes things change, and so, maybe you don't need the pool chairs anymore. I thought that those were because you needed additional chairs because in March, people couldn't find a place to sit. I didn't understand that they were replacements.
We are bringing this simply for the appropriate request to release funds. It's not to rehash projects that are approved.
Right.
The items on this list are necessary.
Okay.
And that's why, Sue, when we start this, we're gonna go line by line on this one, whether it's, instead of doing a thing in mass. In other words, if we look at it and say, and I'll just pick one of the things out here, not that let's just say the Desert Trail ice machine doesn't need to be done or whatever, we can do that, we can say that, but these are funds that are there, and the only reason we have to go back to vote on it is because we voted to hold the funds. That's the only reason.
Okay, so I would not see the need to go one by one. I think that department heads can do that. And if they
Okay.
don't need it, they don't need to, to make that purchase if something has changed.
Well, that's something, we can change that. Ann?
Nothing.
Roberta?
I did have a question about the Palm Ridge parking lot. What does that affect with the pickleball expansion?
There is technically no pickleball expansion brought up at this time, other than a club discussion with staff. So that is in a very early preliminary stage. However, just so that you know that that has fully been taken into consideration if the timelines cross in the appropriate manner. So if any traction gains on an idea of a pickleball expansion at Palm Ridge, I would not do the asphalt in that area if I felt confident that in the couple-year time frame to get a project of that scale off the ground, we would hold back in that area. And that would also create still a successful asphalt replacement in the non-expanded conversation area.
Boy, he uses big words, doesn't he? Aaron?
No comment.
Jerry?
Thank you, Carl. I knew you were going to do that because Roberta and I in the Properties Committee had toured it and you explained it then. Sue, I'm with you. I thought we had approved this, but asked administratively staff to defer certain ones until they kind of saw that the money would really be there. I didn't think we had to do anything. I have no problem going one by one, George.
Thank you. Folks, this is going to be something, do I have consensus to move this to the governing board workshop for a vote? And I will change my idea as an in mass, as a total. Is there a yes or a no?
Yes.
Consensus?
Well, I think there's consensus, but I still question, I'm not one to spend money if we don't need it. Now, I don't care whether it was approved, I'm with Sue. I don't care if this thing was approved 20 times. If it's not needed, we shouldn't be spending it. And that's, I think that the staff needs to review it and review each item and make sure that it does need done. If it does need done, I'm all for it. But I question that we're spending it just because it was approved one time.
In defense of staff, I know they re-review things and have come back to us and said something isn't needed. Jim, so I have complete confidence that staff, if they concluded based on ongoing situation that it wasn't needed, they would come back and let us know. And if you can't hear me, just please agree with me.
Thank you, Jerry.
You guys are great. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, are we going to move forward with this?
Yes.
As it is, okay. It'll move forward to the governing board workshop for a vote in total,
Yes.
okay? And if there's a line item in there that staff says we don't want it, I think at the end of the year, that's called what we call operational savings. When we go through there, Russ, am I correct on that one? The only thing I need to put a little personal touch on this one because it's something, and it's about Beardsley, okay? I was on properties for 2 years, and I was on charter clubs for a year, and I've been on the board for 3. And every one of the years, we have had the sound system lighting upgrade at Beardsley. When are we going to hopefully get it done? I know, every year I hear the same thing, but it's a miracle if it gets done. Thank you. Go ahead, Carl.
Well, George, I think you'll be happy to hear that the Properties Committee has given Beardsley a very thorough walk. Their recommendations were for carrying forward the idea brought up a year ago about enclosing the lobby. So that'll be up for your approval. Along with that tour, they have walked the spa and pool areas. They have requested to have interior lower wall renovations to dress it up, make it look much more attractive. The end of pool carpet repair and replacement schedule is, the carpet is up for replacement. The properties tour recommended that I consider placing the same rubber flooring that I did at Kuntz in that area, removal of the fountains and other rock features in that back corner to create a multi-purpose space for the users of the pool area. And I have vetted, and Russ and I invited Musco Lighting out to give us their pre-proposal for a lighting package and their recommendations to help improve the lighting. So you will have all of that in your budget for approval this season.
Yeah, but well, my contention has been this way. It's been in the budget for the last 6 consecutive years. And we have deferred funds for different things over there as opposed to doing what we've said it was for. And and listen, this is a personal thing on this one because we want to make sure our rec centers and all that. And Beardsley is wonderful because it's a great pool to go to. Unfortunately, if you go inside, it is dark, dank, and if there's an atomic war, that's where you want to be because the building will survive. But moving forward, it's just something. Russ, before you get into, I have a question. I have a question from one of our constituents, and the question is the entrance to the Beardsley pool on the deferred list? It could not be seen on the detail slide, and I could say that is no, it is not on the deferred list. It was not part of the capital projects from last year. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Sorry, Russ.
No problem. Also, the sound, not that we're forgetting about the sound, that is in with our AV package as well. It just happens to be last on the list of as far as importance. And just to update everybody on that, we are still awaiting parts. COVID has drastically affected the shipping of some integral things, but we have walked these thoroughly, went through our procedures and how we're gonna do this. So when we do have product, things should happen relatively quickly.
I thank you guys so much for that, but it's just been, one of the things we've heard many times from the water fitness people that are over there and this and that, they're plugging a boom box into the pool to play a CD so they can exercise in the pool. I think we can do better than that. That's my own opinion.
I agree.
Thank you, bro. Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions about this?
Yes. Carl, you just brought up a subject, and I know you're bringing it up in the future, but I don't think there's 100% unanimous for redoing in the Beardsley pool where the fountains are. I know it was discussed at properties, but I've seen I think three different uses for this thing. One of them was a yoga building, and I think we're putting the cart before the horse. I have no idea what we need to use that space for, but I don't think we need to spend money until we figure it out. And I think we're doing a study right now, and I think we ought to wait for the study to find out if that's included in it.
Well, Jim, that's going to be in next year's budget, though. That's not this year.
I understand that, but it doesn't have to be.
Well, okay, thank you. Hearing any other discussion on this point, this will move forward. Next one, Dr. Canero, you're hot. You got the next number of items.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr. President. The Golf Committee went through some of our policies, and we've come up with some changes. Most of the changes are not adding stuff. It's really taken out just to condense everything. There's a lot of extraneous stuff in each one of these policies. The first one on the refunding refunding prepaid golf cards. It's mainly just taking out some wording that's no longer there, just condensing everything, no real change to it. Under 2.0, it went into a little bit more of explaining exactly why a person can ask for a refund or get an update, such as 2 criteria, death of the cardholder, or a physician's order, stating the cardholder cannot continue to play. And also, we put in there that no refunds, because it hasn't been done, will be issued for public play cards for outside people that come in. Also, no refund will be issued if the cardholder is no longer, it's supposed to be no longer, a member in good standing, and that the discount cards will be turned off at the time the refund forms is submitted, so this way they don't go and use it. In 2.2, we just changed around some of the wording to make it less extraneous about how the amount of the refund is calculated. Basically saying that it's, when they calculate how much is refunded to you, it's taken every round that you play at the actual cost, not at the discounted cost, but at the actual cost. And that is subtracted for how much you paid for the card, and that's where the refund comes. And also, we added in an administrative fee as approved by the board, the governing board, shall be applied to the refund. Okay? And then we just added a section to outlay about getting an upgrade, basically using the same criteria for a refund of how much is left over, and you can use that leftover amount to upgrade to the next card when you purchase it. So that's all there was under that one.
Thank you, Bob. Just a couple of quick questions. These were approved unanimously by your committee?
Yes.
For
the
forwarding in
committee-
here?
Yes, the
Okay.
committee approved them and moved them forward to the governing board.
Very, very good. And all the financial refunding policy and formulas, all that have been worked through Pete's area?
Right.
Okay, just want to make sure the board knew that before that. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 items. There's 5 on here, but we have 07. I typed it in twice doing the agenda.
Yeah, it's
My
all the same.
apology. On all those, do we have recommendation to move these forward?
George, I'm trying to find where Golf 07 is among all the things that were sent to us, and I'm having trouble finding that. I found the others, and it's good. And frankly, Bob, I'm not going to wade into golf policy. It's an area I don't understand, and I defer to your committee. I just didn't see it, George, and
You know what?
It's here?
I don't use the same one you do. I go through the,
which one is it? What is it called? Oh, it's after which one?
03?
Ah, thank you.
I think this is the organized play one. I forget the name of it. Golf course liability, yeah. What they did is they struck one portion from 01 and moved it down to 07. They were just an addition. But you shouldn't be on the golf course if you're not paying for golf.
That was the reason for it.
Okay.
This is 03,
Yeah,
okay, and then this one comes up, the next one up.
I don't have that on mine. But okay, I'm
okay.
good with it, and like I said,
Okay.
I'm not wading in.
No problem. Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah.
Sue?
So are we talking about, under golf course liability?
Right.
You moved that statement 1 point.
About the golf course usage under the liability. Right.
Right. I'm wondering if you wouldn't want to add the general manager. When it says other activities not related to golf are prohibited unless approved by the governing board, we've had a 5K walk there, we've done some other things on golf courses, and I don't remember that coming to the board to be approved. Wouldn't you want to say that that approval could be given by the general manager or the governing board?
It's a good point. Good point. All right, we can add that in there to before we move it, when we move it forward to the board. You're right, that's a good point.
This is why we
You
have
got that,
workshops so
Sharon,
we
right?
can make these changes.
Well, possibly you can take care of that with an email to them? I mean,
Well, we have a,
It's just a simple
we
addition.
have a meeting next week. So before
Okay,
the,
great.
governing board meeting, we do, and I will bring that up, that we're going to add that in and make sure it's all okay with them.
Okay.
Okay?
With that, can we move this forward with the amendment on that for a vote? By consensus, that'll move forward. Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
4.16 revised CO1, that is on my table. Okay? Basically, under 3.1.1 of the policy here, okay, is that we are striking to be in agreement with all our other personal information that's out there. However, a member's telephone number may be considered as confidential information. All governing board members list the member has consent to release. We are being consistent with our policy by removing that. That goes with everything that we have, along with our confidentiality agreements and things with that. Is that any comments or questions about this? This is just for privacy.
George, I understand privacy. Did I understand that we will not publish the names of the committees? I understand address, email, phone number, all that, but not even the names of the committee members?
Well, we can put the committee members' names on there, but it's the list shall contain the name, the address, the home address, email address, and telephone numbers of all members, which will be considered confidential and provided as such on an as-needed basis to the entities of the governing board.
So our members can't find out who are on our committees?
No. It's the committee chairpersons first. Okay, you can find out who's on the committee. What they're looking for is not having all the other personal information released in there.
Understood, and I'm fully on with that. Am I just missing the point that even after the committee is established, a member couldn't call up and say, who's on the golf committee?
No, it's published. That's public. That's regular information.
Oh, okay, then I
Just we'll give them
misunderstood
their
what this was
personal
for.
information,
Yeah,
that's all.
yeah,
Okay.
that's all. Nothing more. Any other questions or comments about this?
Mr. President,
Yes.
on 3.8, committee chairs, where it lists the committees, sports pavilion and bowling, golf, and properties, could we add chartered clubs, please?
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
I have a question on 3.8 is why did you cross out the S and the apostrophe? That looks
Yeah.
grammatically correct to me.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Committee chair's recommendations, it's plural of the recommendations.
The different
You're talking
chairs.
to Mr. Grammarless.
Well, you're talking to the grammar police here, so.
I know that. I'm sitting between the two of them. I know that, but it's okay. Let's see. Yeah, we can add charter clubs in there. I don't see any problem with that.
Thank you.
No problem. And we'll make that grammatical change.
Thank you very much.
We actually have a role that we call chairpersons. That's a parliamentary issue.
Right.
So we want to do that.
Sure.
We could do
What do you think?
chairpersons.
Chairpersons work?
Committee chairpersons with an
Yes.
apostrophe at the end, since it's alluding,
Make sure that apostrophe is at the end.
because it's alluding to their recommendations. It's possessive of their recommendations.
Anything else on this?
Yes.
Yeah, Sue.
Yes.
I have a question about 3.7.1.1. Why was that stricken?
3.7.
We're dealing with subcommittees. 3.7.1.1 is totally stricken, and I'm wondering why.
Well,
Put it someplace else, or what?
no, not at all.
Okay, why?
Okay.
Because that's a change in policy.
Okay. All members of the subcommittee may be considered a member of the committee to which the subcommittee is subordinate of. Okay, that may not be true. Okay, you can.
But that's in
you-
policy that, right now, that is what our policy is. So this is a change in policy.
Yeah, yeah. This would be, and right now, we have a subcommittee, okay? And this is where it would come into the idea, if you have a subcommittee, and we have, right now, we have FI 12 subcommittee, okay? Pete's an advisor on that committee, he's part of that subcommittee, okay? He can't be part of the regular B and F committee. That's why it's making sense on this
Well,
one.
but he's there as an advisor.
Well, he's
he's
also
not
part
part
of
of
that
the-
subcommittee.
But he's an advisor to that subcommittee because
No, he's.
staff can't be on committees.
Yes, when it comes to subcommittees, there's a whole lot of ambiguity. It's, I'll have to read it, if you give me a couple minutes while we move on, we'll get to that policy where it says about subcommittee. Anybody can be part of the subcommittee. That's the,
I think that, George, I'm amazed at how well you can find things, and I look forward to it. But I'm with Sue on this. I think staff is prohibited from serving on any committees.
committee, not a subcommittee.
Well, okay, I
Okay.
thought it was,
But
okay.
and this is where the semantics comes in on this one, okay? If I have a staff person on a subcommittee, they can't be part of the committee as this reads. We're working our way backwards on it.
Okay.
Because the idea is saying, if a person on staff is on that committee, and I'm going to use a couple examples right here. Carl is asked to be part of a subcommittee for putting up an ice skating rink. Okay, I know he's looking at me like he wants an ice skating rink, but, okay, and that, Roberta would say, I want him on the subcommittee, Jerry's going to be on this committee, I have two people from the community on the subcommittee. Carl can't, because he's an employee, be part of that, and the way 3.7.11 reads is that because the subcommittee is formed with him on it, he becomes part of that. That's the backward semantics on it.
And you just hit on the main point, actually, which is a member of the community could be asked to be on a subcommittee.
Right.
They are not a member of the committee.
Right, yeah, so that's why that's working around. I'm sorry about the confusion on that one.
Well, and I'm aware of it because I wrote the rules up for committee chairpersons to follow, and I was surprised, actually, at that comment. But I just think that we need to know that now we are changing it. So that yes, you might have somebody on the Properties Committee who has a couple of community members to join in. And so now you're going to say that they're a subcommittee, but they're not part of the regular committee.
That is correct.
And so that is a significant change, so that we're aware of that, that we want to do that.
Does that make sense, though?
Sue, in
And
the-
I would always
Sue,
see the
in the
person.
past, was that the way it was?
Well, that's the way the policy had been written.
Okay.
And it appeared several times
That a
in the
community member-
rules and in the policy. So that is a
Jerry,
change.
do you need me to look that up, or can I continue on? Thank you.
And I would still question the staff, because the staff really are advisors, even if they're with the committee, but they're not voting. Of course, you don't vote usually in a subcommittee anyway, but
It's consensus.
it seems like they're always an advisor. But you're talking about other community members, if you have them help, then they can't really come back and do any voting or any participation in the actual committee.
Yeah, but that's what it is.
And so that's what it would be changing it to.
Consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes.
I like that, move that forward.
George, do you want me to add a skating rink to the budget this year?
As long as it's non-skid for safety reasons.
What's the slip coefficient on ice? No. There, okay, thank you. The next item is, next four items are Donna Maloney for CC, not charter clubs, for changes to the RRMPs. Donna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first item on the agenda is a recommended change to C03, Section 1.3, Charter Clubs Committee, and this is just to make it consistent with all others, and that is just to remove the word "and governing board" from 1.3.5.
Okay, any discussion on this? Consensus to move this forward for a vote? Okay, so ordered.
Thank
Donna,
you.
you're next up. You're going.
Okay, next item on the agenda is recommended by the Charter Club Committee to the Governing Board Workshop by unanimous consent, and this is regarding capital projects. In the RRMPs on page 36, section 7, property and equipment, paragraph A, the recommendation is just to remove the wording "or through non-interest loans" from the association. Under, again, paragraph C, item 3, We would like to change quarters to facilities so that it is consistent with other areas in the document. And then we would like to add the following language. Again, I will read the whole paragraph. Requests for interior remodeling for any amount of existing club facilities must be submitted online to the Office of the Recreation Activities Manager on Form CR 13 with documentation as stated on CR 13. It will be initially evaluated within 60 days for charter club status that is given priority over new non-charter clubs. And in parentheses, see benefits of a charter, program need, again, see conditions for granting a charter, urgency, safety concerns, maintenance, repair, replacement of like kind, or as a new capital project that benefits the community. The club shall substantiate the need with detailed information on current or improved maximum utilization of facility space, such as scheduling use, membership, participation, and health of club's longevity. If the cost for the request exceeds $5,000, then a CR 13A remodeling interior request over $5,000 shall be submitted along with the CR 13 request for interior remodeling of existing club facilities. If approved, clubs will bear the cost of materials and labor. All labor will be performed or supervised by the association maintenance department. And finally, in paragraph C, adding 2.3 capital projects, new items that are requested by a club, and if the items are for the sole use of said club, the club shall assume 100% financial responsibility of that expense. However, if the new items that are requested by a club are shared with another club or the community, then the financial responsibility of new items shall be determined by the association. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Just a couple other questions. This has gone through your committee and has been moved forward by unanimous consent?
That is correct.
And you have your committee and the people who put this together have worked hand in hand with the recreation manager and the general manager on the wording of this?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Those are just some questions that usually come up from the square one. And I'm going to start Sharon. Okay. Jerry? Donna, no, I'm sorry. Roberta? Ann?
In C, capital projects, that first sentence is kind of convoluted. New items that are requested by a club, and if the items are for the sole use, the club shall assume 100%. There's something missing in there. Shouldn't it read, if the items are for the sole use of said clubs, if the new items requested are for the sole use of the club club shall assume 100% financial responsibility of that expense? That prepositional phrase has the verb in it that's just kind of
Yes.
throwing me off.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, grammatical Liz.
Okay,
She's a principal, so she would know.
so Ann, you would like to remove what word?
I would start it by saying, if the new items that are requested by a club are for the sole use of said
Okay.
club, the club shall assume 100% financial responsibility of that expense.
Very good. I will make that correction.
And thank you, Ann. Sue?
Another question. What was the rationale for taking out in letter A, or through non-interest loans from the association? And I assume this is in relationship to, a new need and a large, for example, a large piece of equipment that a club wants to buy, that now that's not available for interest? I don't know if I can give an example, but I would think something, wood shop or a metal shop or something like that might be a huge investment.
Well,
And are we then turning that option off to them?
That would be an association decision, meaning that Pete, the association would make the decision if they were going to be offering any non-interest loans. And so, again, at the bottom where it says financial responsibility, again, the association would make that decision. That's why it was taken out of there.
Tell me again where it was
The bottom.
placed? The very bottom?
See.
Right. Basically,
Okay,
the
so you think it's covered in the bottom rather than
Right.
the top? Okay.
Thank you, Sue. Sue, anything else? Bob? Jim?
Yeah, I'm a little confused by the word association on the bottom. In the past, it's been this general manager, now it's the board. I don't know, who is the association? I don't know, it's just confusing to me.
You,
My limits are 50,000, so if it's basically the responsibility of the governing board to approve the loan.
okay. Would there be any change? Go ahead, Sue.
Yeah, that is a good point, because these are written so that the presidents of the clubs clearly understand what they have to follow. And, okay, so who is the association? Where do they go? And so that shows up throughout the RRMPs, all over.
Right, but again, like under number 3, it's specifically telling you you're submitting the CR13, CR13A. That's all part of the association, these steps. It's not one individual, it's all part of the association. So,
One of the things we're trying to get to is we're trying to make sure that our clubs, whenever they want something, start with the CR13. The CR13 has a checklist that goes along with it of whether it's approved by the club president, then by their board, by their group, then it comes up to the recreation manager, and then to the general manager. So I think that the word association is well represented. Like you said, it's all put together in there. The idea is to start with the CR13, which hasn't happened in years gone by. What do you think, Sue?
Well, I still think it doesn't tell me where to go.
I've been told where to go often.
so if I can,
Unless you refer to association procedures or forms, or whatever those things are called.
right, so Sue, for example, on the CR13, step 1, submittal goes to the recreation activities manager and then forwarded to the facilities manager for cost estimates and then returned to the club president. Step 2, the club president presents cost estimate to board. Board recommends to the club membership to abandon request, approve project as submitted, or proceed with submission of CR13A. CR13A is submitted to the recreation activities manager with copies of the club membership minutes indicating membership approval for submission and final obligation. Step 3, recreation activities manager then forwards the CR13A and club minutes to the general manager to proceed with policy FA01, procedures and project planning process.
Okay, so once you get to that form, then it has the specifics. But when you
Well,
just
again-
use the word association, it isn't as clear as it might be.
What word would we like to put in there instead of determined by the association? Determined by the general manager?
Again,
General
if-
manager, recreation manager? Or is
No,
it the
because in some cases, it's through the processes that have been set up, or the forms, or the attached, what do you call those? The attachments that you've got to there. I don't know. Jim, help out.
I don't know, but if it said general manager and governing board, I would understand it, but I don't understand association.
Okay.
To me,
Donna, can we make that change to make it
I don't know.
general?
I can change the word association, I just need to know what you would like it changed to.
Well, again, we have a Jim, we have a general manager with a limit, okay? No, you know, just give me a moment here. However, the new items may, requested by the club, are shared with another club or the community. The financial responsibility of new items shall be determined by the association. I don't know how to make that work. Brother Russ, help us out of the weeds here, my friend.
Please. Okay, so it says that because depending on where the CR system sends it, it goes anywhere between any one of us up to you guys. We are the association, everybody in this room. That's why it says that.
Okay.
I don't see why that's so complicated.
George,
It's a perfect wording.
Who just, I'm sorry, Sharon.
can you make a definition of what the word association means?
Well, that's in our, that's already what it is.
then-
That's in our
that-
Articles of Incorporation.
Yeah,
I know,
but that
but-
would clarify it in the RRPs, if you said the association includes the department heads, the general manager.
Well, to that point, Donna, not that I want to ask a question, I know at the beginning of the RRMPs, there's a list of definitions,
Correct.
okay? Is association in there? I know you have them in front of you because you were.
Right, and I'm looking at the RRMPs, and there is no word association. There is association or recreation centers shall mean and refer to the recreation centers of Sun City West, an Arizona nonprofit corporation.
So perhaps you need to redefine what the word association means.
You could,
You know,
could
if I
come-
look at the dictionary, association is going to help us.
Okay, folks,
if
folks, I just want to quickly rope this in a question. Be careful with changing the word association because that is who we are as a legal representation on our Articles of Incorporation. Thank you. So be very, very careful before you go down that road. Okay, go ahead, so.
I think if you added something in there, in this document, association refers to the different department heads and the forms and the processes established, then you wouldn't have to go back and change that because this word association in those RRNPs shows up all over the place. So you'd have to change absolutely every one of them if you were going to be more specific. But if you added that to your list of definitions there, that in this document we're referring to.
Are we okay with that? Jerry?
I had a slightly different way of saying it, but say it has to be approved by the appropriate bodies within the association. Because you are correct, the association is the legal entity, and that's kind of a given. So what you're saying, Sue, is you want the appropriate bodies within the association.
Not bad for a retailer, huh?
Okay, so am I okay if indeed I say by the appropriate parties of the association? Are we good with that?
We got
Sue?
consensus on that.
So where it says
Well, you could, but you'd have to
association
change
by
that.
the appropriate parties of the association.
Okay. Not parties, what was the other? Bodies, oh, bodies, well, I don't like bodies, but.
Personnel.
Folks,
Yes.
I think we're getting into weeds here on this one.
Appropriate personnel of the association.
Yeah, we're getting in the weeds,
We're getting
absolutely,
into
but,
weeds here, okay?
but those weeds are all over that document that she's working with, not just this page.
All right, and
Okay, so can we move forward with just making the change of appropriate personnel of the association?
Sorry, George. I liked bodies because that includes the board.
okay,
Okay, appropriate bodies of the association.
we're good?
Or I could say appropriate departments.
Gentlemen, we good? Staff? That's what it is. Okay, Karen? No, we can move this forward.
All right, so may we get a,
We have consensus to move this forward for a vote. Okay? that's
as it
what
is, or
With
the-
that change.
with appropriate bodies of the association. Is that the change?
Well, I think as a body, I'm inappropriate, but that's another issue.
Appropriate bodies of the association.
Okay. Awesome. Donna,
All righty,
we're good.
thank you.
Okay,
Moving
next-
on to,
Next one is yours.
the next one is club membership. And under Chapter 2, Section 5, procedure for making an application for a club charter, we would like to add the sentence, maintaining a club's charter is dependent on club membership, active participation, and longevity of existing club's charter. Moving on to Chapter 1, the prerequisites for club formation. Under Item 1, we would like to delete, once a charter has been granted, the active paid-up membership must remain at or above the minimum, and adding, maintaining a club's charter is dependent on club membership, active participation, and longevity of club's charter. Number 2, as long as an existing club maintains its minimum membership rate, it will continue to retain its charter. Clubs that fall below its minimum as reported on the annual CR 15 membership roster will be notified, and the Recreation Activities Manager will assist these clubs in their efforts to bring their membership up to the minimum level. If the club is unable to bring its active membership up to the minimum membership level within 1 year of the written notification, the Recreation Activities Manager will recommend to the General Manager of the club charter that the club charter should be withdrawn. Number 3, deleting if the membership continues below the minimum level, just having the general manager may recommend to the governing board that their charter be withdrawn. And this, again, was by unanimous consensus of the Charter Club Committee and with the support and recommendation of appropriate staff.
Thank you, Donna. Riley, this, I know you worked diligently on this. Just reiteration to the governing board with a nod of the head. This is something that you believe can work very, very well for our clubs? Okay, thank you. Okay, Jerry?
I had a question, Riley. What is the definition of active membership?
Active membership, we are looking at, we have some clubs where we might have, say, a 50% activity. So in other words, only 50% of the people are participating within the club. And that's something we're taking a very close look at.
Okay, what I just heard was it's where we want to go, and I know you were trying to get to that before COVID hit, but we don't really have a handle, we don't have our arms around what active membership means yet.
Well, I have to concur. One of the things is that we have to start with an idea of active membership, and I'm not going to name a club out there, but there are clubs out there where in order to continue with their charter, their husbands join up, and their wives join up, and they never show up, and they're just on the roster to keep that charter in place. And of course, we as an association, when we're sitting here, we have space, and we can't have a room that's being used by 10 or 12 people once a week and locked up the rest of the time, when we have clubs and people out there who are looking for space 24/7. And I think that that's the route we're going down.
I'm fully supportive. I know this has been in the works for some time. I'm just suggesting that we are using a term here which anticipates our development of rules and guidelines for what an active membership might look like and how we would measure it.
Jerry, if I'm going to interrupt you, I think the next statement, the next thing down the list that Donna's going to be is going to answer that question about longevity, percentage of their annual membership, and things like that.
I just had a question.
Yes.
I don't understand why we make an exception on longevity of existing club charter.
There's big concern, Roberta, with clubs that have been here for 30 years that are diminishing in membership. And longevity was added so that clubs could know that their existence over 30 years would be considered for their continuation as a chartered club. That would be considered, the fact that they've been here for 30 years, and if we could possibly accommodate them, we would.
Or just have the issue that, we're saying to clubs, like you just brought up, George, if they don't have enough members and they're taking up space, why we're letting these people, just because they've been here for 30 years, but they have 10 members, why they're still allowed to exist.
Well, I'm not going to speak for the recreation manager, general manager, but just my personal thoughts on this, Roberta, is one of the things is that we have people and we have a spread of community that goes from 55 to 95. And one of the questions they have, and I'm just gonna, is that we have the ice skating group who's down to 20 to 10 people. Okay, is it our job? Is it our thought to take their ability to do their craft away? No, but on the same side, what space do we have? And I think that the idea is when you look at some of the clubs that take up the social hall, let's just say, for example, okay, there may be, they want it every Saturday night because they have something, or they want Palm Ridge every Friday night because they have something, but they don't have the people to support that. Getting them to put their hand up and say, we need help. We've never had the idea before that the club needs help. And that's where we're really trying to get the idea. Listen, you fall below X amount of people in there, instead of a minimum standard of you can keep it, our minimum standard is going to be you need help. How can we make this? We had the great success with the card player clubs last year where we had 5 clubs that joined into one, and now they have sufficient room to keep their charter, keep a singular charter, keep the space that they have, and use it efficiently. 3 different card groups are using one room for their different play, and they get to keep their craft, but not have an individual one where 8 people are showing up to use a room that's 60 by 80, and there's 45,000 tables empty. I think that's what it's coming down to. I don't know if that answers your question, but this is one of the things that we're in a territory where we're moving to see where the clubs are going to be. We have clubs that are growing by leaps and bounds, and we have clubs that are shrinking the same way. So, I don't know if that answered your question. I love you. Thank you. Ann? Sue?
Of course, I have another question.
Is it grammatical?
Well, it's a little bit of organizational information. I see a sentence repeated and repeated and repeated, and whenever I see that, then it's like, okay, it's in the wrong place or it doesn't need to be repeated. You've got maintaining a club's charter is dependent on club membership, active participation, and longevity of existing club's charter, but that's listed under the procedure for making an application for a club charter. So if I'm trying to join, have a new club created, what has that got to do with it? That has nothing to do with it. That maybe belongs in a category, it needs to be said. I don't disagree with that. And then it's also listed under prerequisite for club formation. And that's talking about number 1 there, having to have 75 people for a social club, et cetera. It seems like that belongs down here under number 2 there, where you've got, as long as an existing club maintains its minimum membership. Well, that's talking about how you keep your charter. Seems like that belongs in that statement, and then you don't have to have repeated it numerous times. So I don't have any problems with the concept and the things that are written, but it seems like they're organized using the old structure when maybe we need to have a revamping of A, B, C, and D because they don't fit the category name. That's my concern with that whole section.
Thank you, Sue. Once again, I remind everybody, we have an 11 o'clock hearing, so we need,
Okay.
Donnie, got anything else to add to this?
Uh,
Not to this section.
Right, if the board will approve the wording, we can reformat and not duplicate the wording.
Not a
Why
problem.
not just put it back to the committee and let them get it straight?
Well, the committee,
Rush.
the committee has done this work already. The committee has
Right,
brought,
done it
The
right.
committee shouldn't have to just discuss format. If the information is correct, we should be able to just format it and meet it grammatically correct.
Bob? Jim? If I did that, I'd be home having lunch now. That's another issue. All right, do we have consensus to move us forward for a vote? Okay. Okay, move forward for a vote. Donna, last thing up here, the participation.
Yes. And this is on member participation. And before I start, I would like to say that Sue has again addressed the issue of formatting on this recommendation from the committee. And I would like to just reiterate the recommendation in the reformat of her suggestion. And that would be specifically under Chapter 2, Section 3 on the A, B, and C, removing all the recommended information, keeping it as it currently is as far as A, given priority for facility, B, offered regular use of facilities as available, and C, authorized use of facilities for regular meetings and activity use. And then adding D, which would say, association will assign facility space that meets multiple criteria, including participation, equipment required, and available room accommodations. And then adding a number 4 in the same area, and the heading would be maintaining a charter. And that would state, in order to maintain a club charter, the club must meet a participation rate of 75% of membership as measured by the monthly CR and annual CR2 and CR15 membership rosters, period.
Okay, any other discussion on this? Before we get into it, what I'm going to have to ask before, if we're going to move this forward for a vote, Donna, I would
Yes.
absolutely ask you for a clean copy sent to all the directors prior to us having our meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll be okay with that, folks? Jerry?
Absolutely. I think the 75% of active membership or participation is kind of a big change. And I'd like to see a lot more presentation from Donna and Riley about how that works, what it means, how they're going to measure. I mean, that's a huge deal. And it will affect a lot of our clubs. And not just the bad actors that are playing games with us, but I mean, just so, because it's so big, if we move this forward to the regular meeting, I really ask that Riley and Donna be prepared to kind of give us a short presentation on really what that means as a practical matter for our clubs and how it would work.
Riley, you okay with that? You're on the agenda. Anything else, Jerry? Sharon?
I'm with Jerry on this in regard to the 75% because you have clubs that meet once a week, and then you have clubs that meet 7 days a week, and the membership amount varies by whatever that particular thing is that they're doing that day. So you could have 5 people one day and have 55 people another day. So how are you actually deciding what the 75% is?
Okay, they're going to bring that to us?
I'm just saying, that's
No
part of the
problem.
problem.
Roberta? You agree? She's fine? Sue?
Just one comment on the top of that of this page. That same sentence appears there again, maintaining a club's charter, that we talked about on the last page. So I'm hoping that would be removed.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Bob? Jim?
Go back to the committee. We're adding a lot of stuff, and I think this is supposed to be a committee decision. That's where I think it should be. Thank you very much.
I think Jim's talking that it needs to be cleaned up. It's too loosey-goosey right now. We've made so many changes that we don't know where we're at.
Well, that's what a workshop's for, but to have
Right.
the workshop for us to make changes, to send it back to the committee for them to make more changes, it's going to come back to workshop for us to make more changes. Where does it stop? We can have,
Well,
here's what I'd like to see, and I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, but if we get a clean copy of what we're going to vote on, we can take on that day and say, no, we want to send this back to committee because it's not right. That's what we need to do.
Okay, I'm good with that.
You good with that? Okay, clean copy to us. Okay,
George?
okay, move forward. Yes.
One question on that. The reason it goes back to committee, though, is has the committee already decided what the 75% is? I mean, do they already, Riley or Donna,
Yes.
know exactly how you've measured that?
Yes.
And you agreed to that?
Yes.
So whatever you present to us, they've already agreed to?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, move forward, consensus on this? Okay, very good. Director Board comments, Jim Young? Bob? Donna?
No.
Sue?
Nope.
Me, no. Ann?
I had one question that I'd gotten from a member of the community, and this is for Bill. Where are we with the water restrictions that may be imposed with the reduction in golf course size, and what are the costs involved? Do we have any of that yet?
I'm sorry, Todd has met a couple times recently with ADWR relative to the new, what is called Plan 4 coming out of the Arizona Department of Water Resources. That'll take place in 2023. And so the numbers that they're producing, Todd, off the top of your head, what's, as far as the number of acre feet that they're going to allow us to throw, do you have that?
Yeah, in the fourth management plan, it's a reduction, allotment reduction from 4.9 acre feet per acre down to 4.75. So we know that. I'm getting some word on the fifth management plan that's going to roll out in the year 2025, and we probably won't have any information on that until 2023, once they implement the fourth management plan. So we still have a ways to go, but. I think we're going to be grandfathered in on our golf courses, 1986 and under on the age of those. So I think we're going to have a reduction in allotments in the fifth management plan. We just don't know how much.
So I think, Ann, with those numbers that Todd gave, if we do our calculations based on what we throw per acre, I don't really think 2023 is going to have an effect on us because I don't think we throw that much right now anyway. So that's a good sign. And then again, if we do get grandfathered in 2025, that's even a better sign that we won't be ultra affected with a lot of costs as far as turf removal. But I think if you were to ask Todd, we do have several golf courses where we do have excess turf that I don't think Todd would complain too much if it wasn't there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roberta? Sharon? Jerry? Very good. Comments?
Mr. President, I forgot to say something. I just.
You're infringing on my time.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to, again, give kudos to Katie O'Grady and Martin Aguero and Johnson Smith on the videos that they have created for the community. I just think it, again, is such a good thing that we've done for the community. And for the community, if they're listening, please watch them because they are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, directors. Thank you, staff, for all the hard work. workshops, we work a lot of things out, and it works out very well. We can move forward to a governing board meeting. I really have no other comments other than to say I am blessed by being able to work with the best group in Sun City West, and I can only say that everything you're doing now is going to move the community forward by leaps and bounds, and I thank you. Also to the senior staff that's here, especially our general manager, our CFO, our maintenance, and our construction. Thank you guys so much. With that, there are no other comments from outside. They were both answered. We will adjourn this meeting. Our next governing board workshop is January 8th, and it'll be here. And our next regular meeting is December 17th with all. Thank you so much. We have a brief recess till we have our